It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Star Tribune columnist Patrick Reusse here with me as well. Plenty to get to off the weekend. Patrick, we're going to start with Timberwolves. We'll get some Twins, futility in there too, and maybe the Wild qualifying for the playoffs again. That became official Sunday with a victory, but got to start Wolves, Patrick, just, coming off of Saturday's game one victory in Memphis. And if the narrative, going into this series was that Memphis was maybe a good matchup for them, even though they're the 7 seed and Memphis is the 2 seed, that kind of played out in that game. It was, for as good as Memphis is, that felt like a game where the Wolves had the upper hand for most of the game, strangely enough, and has to give you a little bit of a, curiosity going into the rest of this series, including game 2 on Tuesday.
And it really did emphasize the point of how big that play-in game was, because you had to win the first one. Otherwise, you get beat by 15 by Phoenix in the first game, and you have no chance. I was thinking back to when they went to the playoffs last time. They won 47 games, and you knew they had no chance to win a playoff series against Houston. They won one game, and that was probably the maximum they could win. And while they filled the arena and people were, that showed up, there was no anticipation of success. And if you'd lost to Phoenix, if you'd lost that play-in game and then ended up having to play Phoenix, there would have been no anticipation really of success this time. Now you watch that game thinking, well, they might have a chance. And to me, Mike, they didn't play that well and won that game. Now, Anthony Edwards was great and Cat was good, but they turned it over, 11 times the first quarter or something. They were throwing it all over the building. D'Angelo Russell won for his first 10. So they didn't play great, and they still handled them. They were still the best team on the court, dang near the whole game. It was real instructive to me. I did not realize that Ja Morant, for all his greatness, isn't a shooter at all. He's doesn't make threes. He's not a shooter. He's not a jump shooter. He's going to get his 28 or 30, and as Finch said, live in the middle of your defense. But he's not a shooter, and Cat does not get bounced around. He can go out, get away from the basket. Steven Adams go out there. Steven Adams didn't score. That was supposed to be a bad matchup for him.
He didn't shoot. He took zero shot attempts. He took zero shot attempts in 24 minutes.
So you got hope now. That's all of a sudden Memphis has got to be looking at themselves saying, man alive, this team came in here and we forced a lot of turnovers and they still beat us. And that was a horribly officiated game on all standards. But, both sides, those are the two stupidest clear path fouls I've ever seen in my life from these over egregious jerks that they had, David Guthrie and friends. But it was watching it, you thought, tonight for sure, or this afternoon, the Timberwolves are definitely the better club.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it was like I said, if you thought going in there might be a chance, I feel like my perspective on the series has changed a little bit, just, from a game 1 win. Now we'll see if they can carry it over, but the two things they got to be most encouraged about, you touched on these already, was, Anthony Edwards coming off of that 30-point game in the playoff game against the Clippers puts 36 on Memphis. I mean, here's a guy who, struggled some towards the end of the year. We don't know if it was just kind of fatigue, whether it was, the lingering injury, stuff like that, or whether it's just, long season, guys get a little disinterested. They go through slumps, stuff like that. Whatever it was, if it was a slump, that thing is over. This guy, like he has said, when the bright lights come on, he comes out to play. So that, it goes without saying, but you never know what these guys are going to do when they get to the playoffs. And 36 in his playoff debut tells you what he has in him, at least.
Making shots is a wonderful thing in basketball. I've always said, you look through the games and Okay, goaltending is the big thing in hockey. It's the big X factor that you don't know about. And in football, it's turnovers. You don't know about it. In basketball, making shots. It's that
Sure.
the fundamental nature of the game is you got to make shots. And if some team decides to shoot 38% some night, not because of great defense, but because they don't make any shots, and Edwards has been fabulous lately, making that jump shot, making threes, making. He hasn't had to get to the basket that often because he has gotten there, but he's gotten more just shooting and making his jump shots, and he is. There's no doubt he doesn't play with any intimidation. Now, what was really, I think, the real thing though was the rebounding was even, right? I mean, Memphis statistically one of the greatest offensive rebounding teams of in NBA history, and they didn't pound the boards. They didn't have like three guys charging to the boards that I saw. There's a incredible number of missed shots where the Vanderbilt or Cat or one of the other guys just had it wide open, uncontested. I don't know what was with Memphis's act there, but that was not a hard nosed looking team. Not on Saturday. I'm sure you'll see something different Tuesday, but that was not a tough, nasty team that they were supposed to be.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake for 24/7 gaming, fun restaurants and bars, and luxurious hotel rooms. And join Club M to bask in the rewards. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
No, they seem like they had some playoff jitters. I mean, a team that, overachieved, I would say, to a certain degree this year. Now they had made the play-in a year ago. They made the playoffs a year ago by getting in, and they got, they took game one from Utah last year before getting rolled. But, it's a team that doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. I mean, Steven Adams has played in a lot of playoff games, but the rest of these guys haven't really been there. Kind of like the Wolves, where they got, Patrick Beverly, who's been in a bunch of playoff series, then nobody else really has done much of anything in the playoffs. So it could have just been a matter of, young team with expectations all of a sudden realizing what's at stake and putting up a clunker. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what they are able to do in game two, because I'm sure the Wolves are going to see a better version of Memphis in that game. But like you said before, Steven Adams was pretty much a non-factor. I think he only had 3 rebounds too. I think he only had 1 offensive rebound. I think Memphis maybe had 8 offensive rebounds for the game. You will certainly live with that number if you're the Wolves, who have not been a great defensive rebounding team this year. And you're right, Memphis, one of the best offensive rebounding teams of any era this season. So Cat, though, like you said, a lot of concerns I had coming off of that Clippers game, just the way he looked in that game, not just the fouls, but looking like he was overmatched in the moment. And that was building upon a history that was 4 years old, but still was a history where he did not play well in that Houston series that you mentioned too. So we were wondering, okay, is this playoff Cat? Is that a worry? And he, 29 points in a pretty efficient effort, at least took a step towards changing that narrative over the weekend as well.
I thought the whole reaction to that was, I wrote the column about it, they were way over the top. He had a lousy game. Yeah, I saw Patrick Mahomes have a lousy game too. I was not of the okay, the NBA, they're all into that. Oh, he can't handle the pressure of a playoff game, and he, his biggest problem was, it wasn't his problem of him not being tough enough. It was his problem of trying to be too tough.
Right.
Was his, bullying through people, and he obviously he's like the rest of them, only a little more over the top as far as complaining about officiating. And I think he's worse at home emotionally than he is on the road, because he gets the crowd, he gets a foul called, so he reacts, and then the crowd gets into it too. And he's being encouraged by the fans to complain about everything. And, but I mean, he's been by far best player now his first 3 years, he played 82 games, right? He didn't miss a.
Correct.
And he was a pretty committed, hard-nosed. I mean, not hard-nosed, never was hard-nosed, but he was a pretty committed player. And the last 3 years, I didn't really know if we were getting the best he had. He missed a lot of games. And this year, he was the best he's ever been. And I was not willing to throw him overboard because he had one lousy game against a pretty good Clippers team that knew how to play him. So it was, I was not surprised that he showed up and had a really good game on Saturday. And now they'll probably attack him a little differently this time. They're going to have to try to. They can't give him as much room as they did this time, and in Saturday's game, and it'll just be a more fierce game. Now these guys called 56 fouls after 54 fouls in the 2 games. So I don't know what they can do. I don't think they can call more fouls than that. But the game is going to be way nastier Tuesday than it was on Saturday. And the other thing is we got the crazy man who's going to stir up some stuff. And there will be at least one of these playoff games against Memphis where Beverly gets ejected because he's nuts. He is really valuable. And he made a big 3 there that every time he shoots, I scream at the TV because I don't think he's a shooter, but he is off the deep end, and there'll be an incident of significance with him before this series is over.
Yeah, I was on Memphis radio a few days ago, and they asked me, they'd said an over-under line of ejections for anybody in this series of 1.5, and I definitely took the over on that. I feel like it's going to get emotional as things goes on. Patrick Beverly's got some of that to him. Dylan Brooks on Memphis' side certainly has some of that to him. Those guys are going to get under each other's skin, especially since this looks like it's going to be a potentially 6-7 game type of series with it going back and forth a little bit. When you play each other that many times in a row, that sort of thing is only going to happen. But yeah, I get what you're saying about Cat. He had a great year. I think that's a good point too about the emotion at home versus the road. So I guess we'll just have to kind of watch that as the rest of the series goes on. But it was still a concern to me, especially after seeing how he played against Houston, 4 years ago. But, different Cat at this point. So that
fact he was that bad against Houston. They were just overmatched,
Yeah, he only had like 13 points combined in the first 2 games of that series. He was pretty bad early in that series. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just run into a better team. That's something we got to remember too. Like sometimes we give blame to somebody else, and he's like, well, actually, the other team was just pretty good. So that'll be something to watch.
He had a hard time with that Capella, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Who was really a pretty good player back then. But yeah, he's a better player now than he was in 2018. So then he's more experienced. I have a real question as to what orders the officials are operating under, though, from the NBA league office, because the postseason generally they're allowed to be more physical, and they're just blowing the whistles like insane people. The first couple of at least the first 2 games we've seen, I gotta think the league office has told them to call a lot of fouls in the first round to try to calm things down. I think it's got to be something going on, because 110 fouls in 2 games is ridiculous.
That is a lot. Yeah.
I don't know. There's something going on. You never know what the league is up to, but they got to love this series because they got 2 series in the first round, right? Basically, they have the Nets and the Celtics, which has got a chance to be great. Boy, did the Celtics pull that one out.
Yeah.
And then this one, and the others are mismatches. So, I was surprised that Golden State ended up winning as easy as they did. But, you got at least half the first rounders are not worth turning on the TV to watch because they're just absolute blowouts. So.
Yeah, I think these 2, and then the I think Raptors and 76ers could get good at some point too, but it was not.
Raptors team is missing, though. I think 76ers might sweep them. So they've got a bunch of guys not playing. So
we'll see.
Canada, you never know with Canada if somebody's got a cousin from 4 states away who's got COVID, they probably won't let them play. So,
yeah. Well, we might be in line for May basketball here. That would be Game 7 of this series. I think we're going to see some May playoff hockey. We'll get to the Wild here in a little bit. Patrick, I don't know if we're going to have any October baseball this year.
I couldn't watch them yesterday after about 6 innings. This is the most pathetic hitting I've ever seen. They're just awful. 100. You told me that how many hits? 51 hits.
51 hits in 9 games.
9 games, 51 hits, and what they had 13 of them in one game, didn't they? Or 11, or the game they had 8 runs in, they had a bunch of hits, didn't they? So
yes,
yeah. I mean, it's that was the story. The first game in Boston, right? That the offense came to life. No, it didn't. They stink. They're it was. I mean, now Correa's not going to hit 130, and but they got one hitter, Arise. He's the only guy that comes to the plate. You think, he might get a hit.
Right.
Nobody else. There's nobody else that comes to the plate. You say, yeah, he's probably going to get a hit here. It's brutal, pathetic. And with the geniuses, the boy geniuses, they went and got some guy that nobody'd ever heard of out of high A. He was coaching high A, never coached above there. David Popkins. He's one of this. He's like the Giants guy that was, just absolutely analytically fantastic. He knew everything about the swing and changing the swing and the whole thing. Yeah, well, I still take a guy who might have known that the major leagues existed before he got here. It's a guy that, I don't know if he ever even played pro ball, but it's sometimes these guys outsmart themselves. And at this point, their latest young genius, if I was him, I'd be in a panic because this is unbelievable. This is brutal. And we were so desperate that Dick and Roy were telling us the other day, was it yesterday? Too many day games.
Too many day games. That's what it is.
Too many day games. It doesn't give you enough time to prepare. Okay, that's good. Too many day games. That was, generally speaking, when the weather's 38 degrees out, you'd say, well, at least it was a day game. But now we're saying they're not too many day games. Even by BSN standards, BSN standards, that was a reach to try to explain this pathetic start to a season. And guess what? You got a basketball team that's got a good chance to get out of a first round. You got a hockey team that's going to be playing at least till June, in all likelihood, or, at least going to capture the town once the playoffs start. And you're sending out this product. That place is going to be a ghost town this year, Target Field, if they don't shape up here. I know it's only 9 games, but it's pathetic to watch. It's awful. There's nothing happening. Inning after inning, boom, boom, boom. And it's not like they've been, we all were saying Clayton Kershaw, man, he was great. He should have stayed in. I don't think he was that good. Watching him now, he was just throwing he didn't throw over 90. He didn't throw a pitch over 90. And they struck out 13 times. They're awful. And what a bad year to be awful for a franchise that's really in trouble, I think, with the public. So,
yeah, I mean, but they scored. They had the 10-run outburst against the Mariners. They had the 8 runs against Boston the other day. So that means in the other 7 games, they've scored 11 runs because they got 29 on the season.
Wow.
And
187 team batting average. 187.
And you look at it too. I mean, it's been, if it was just, a 1-week slump, then you could be like, okay, this is, it's going to get better. And it will get somewhat better to a certain degree. We don't know to what degree. But the other problem, Patrick, is the injuries already. Buxton already has, although that sounds like it's not as serious as they might have feared, that's going to be a couple weeks, I would think. They're going to be cautious with it. And Kirilloff with the wrist, that's a major blow. It's a guy that, on given nights probably would be in the middle of your lineup, and you're counting on him, short term and long term. And if this wrist thing is, recurring and you never know when it's going to flare up, that's a problem. You got Sonny Gray on the injured list too with the hamstring. That's the pitching side, but already with the injuries this year.
Yeah, Buxton, it slides into a base and pops up and looks like he's done for his career. He's what he said, they quoted him today, he had a tingling sensation and he was frustrated and he's been a little, I don't know. You know what? I had this thought. This kid didn't drink enough milk when he was a kid, man. He didn't glass of milk in the morning. He's got to have the worst, for a great physically imposing guy on the outside. He's got to have the worst skeleton in the world. He's got to have a most fragile skeleton in the world. It's last year, Mike, both of the times he got hurt last year, he was out way longer than we all anticipated.
Yes.
So not exactly a guy who beats expectation. You never hear, well, you might hear it, but it's a lie. He's ahead of the traditional. He's ahead of where he was supposed to be in his recovery. We love to say that. Nobody ever says that about this guy. And you combine him with Doc Rock, who doesn't want to play a guy unless he's 100%. As I keep saying, this is baseball. There is no 100%. You play 162 games. There's no such thing. Here is the standard. Can you play today? And are you capable of going out and playing today? Whether that's at 85% or 100%, are you capable of playing today? If the answer is yes, see ya, get out there. This is, all this waiting around to get a guy back in a lineup never works. It never works. That never worked for Buxton last year. They waited an extra 2 weeks the first time he got hurt, and he came back and got hurt. He never got out of St. Paul, right? I saw him when he first came in St. Paul. He hit a triple. He had 2 hits that day. Yay. And about 2 days later, he can't play again because he got sore running out his triple, apparently. We all love him as a player, but let's face it. Somebody said to me, how the Twins going to be? And I said, tell me whether Buxton's going to play 140 or 60.
Yep.
And I'll tell you. And look at we're talking about the lack of runs, Mike. How many of those are Buxton responsible for?
A lot. Yeah. I mean, he had the sequence where he had 3 homers and 3 consecutive at bats earlier in the year. And the one that should have won their game. And by the way, the bullpen is not great either. The starting pitching has probably been the most pleasant surprise so far. Joe Ryan, good in that win the other day. Bailey Ober, pretty good yesterday, too. Got a little victimized by some bad defense, but he only gave up 2 unearned runs in 6 innings. But yeah, the bullpen has been shaky so far. They gave up a ton of runs yesterday. And
Thielbar is you're yourself with Thielbar and Columnist as their 2 lefties, and Caleb hasn't been good the last 2 times out. So they're and by the way, that bullpen is going to be now. They did get rid of 1. They got 15 pitchers now instead of 16. But come next week, they got to have 13 pitchers. So it's going to be an 8-pitcher bullpen, and this does not look like one made for. They're going to be shuffling them in and out from here, but Duffy does not look good, and doesn't look sharp. And Duran was going to be unhittable, and then he gave up 3 runs the other day. So what is amazing about 102? People can hit it.
Yeah, I know it.
Although you see our Hunter Green set out the guy the Twins didn't draft set an all-time record for most 100-mile-an-hour pitches.
Saw that.
39 100-mile-an-hour pitches the other day. But
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a bad time to make everybody say, man, we got the Wild, we got the Wolves. we got other stuff to worry about. So,
wonder when we see Royce Lewis. He's been knocking it around pretty good in St. Paul. I wonder if that's that's always the ace in the hole when you're struggling, is to bring up the prize prospect when he deserves it, and see how he does as well.
You got to keep him at shortstop though, because Correa's one and done. So
I know.
So you can't start messing with him. You got to hope he starts hitting. So Lewis will probably be over there until September, I would guess, unless somebody else gets hurt, and then you can maybe bring him over and play third or something. I don't know, but he's got to be your shortstop next year. So
he does. I think I put the magic number at 270 for Buxton and Correa games played combined this year. We'll see where that number. That was the number they had to get to if they're going to be good.
They sat Correa once for no reason, right?
Right.
Not him, just because Doc Rock does that. But Buxton is that leaves if it's going to be 270, that means that Correa has to play 161. So
maybe. Yeah. Not great. Well, let's finish, Patrick. Let's finish up talking about the Wild here for a little bit. They did clinch a playoff berth yesterday, came back and beat San Jose. Not their finest game, not Marc-Andre Fleury's finest game, but they do find a way to win again. That's kind of been something they've done a lot this year, especially in overtime, late game situations. I mentioned this on Twitter the other day, just the third time in their combined histories that the Wild and Wolves now are in the playoffs in the same year. The other times being 2003 and 2018. So we have a dueling playoff situation here, which makes it fun. And both these teams are pretty fun.
Yeah, they are. The Wild are definitely a coin flip in the first round. It's locked in now. It's going to be them in St. Louis. And they have had trouble with the Blues. But in the Blues, you figured, okay, they got to go to Nashville, and our fellas get to play the horrible Sharks at home. And the Blues go down and get 7 goals in a period and beat Nashville 3. They are playing really well. Now the Wild had them running around like idiots in the third period the other day and came back and tied the game, and then St. Louis beat them in the 3-on-3 overtime. I think these 3-on-3 overtime wins are fun, but they mean nothing.
Right.
Because playoffs start, you don't get to do that. You can play for 5 hours. And here's the other thing. They're giving up a lot of goals. Aren't they, lately? I mean, you give up Sharks who, it was the last game of a 5 or 6 game road trip in which the Sharks, I don't think, had won a game, and they played last night, right? Sharks were played the day before, a night game, I think, and they came in here and put up 4 goals against them, and everybody's routinely getting 3-4 goals against them. So it's as playoff hockey is supposed to be this, tightly played, more physical game. They never win a face-off, which becomes more important in the playoffs. So I would say they're no better than a coin flip against St. Louis right now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's about what it is. St. Louis is awfully good. I think they're like, Wild, it's not just this year too. Those struggles against St. Louis go back a few years where just whatever it is about the matchup, the style, that is not a good one for them. Kind of the other side of, when we talked about Minnesota and Memphis in the NBA, you're thinking about that's a good matchup, even if the Wild ends up getting home ice, which is probably a coin flip at this point too, because St. Louis is right there with them in the standings. But I'd say that's true.
Wild this week has an easy schedule though. So they got a Vancouver coming in here. They're at Montreal, which is terrible. And they have the proverbial game in hand.
The game in hand. Yes, the game in hand.
So they still right now are favorites to get to play St. Louis at home. But it seems to me the postseason, being at home is not what it used to be in hockey and in almost in every sport. Not so much basketball is still the home court means a lot, but I don't, the other sports, NFL doesn't mean anything during the playoffs. NHL, it doesn't mean nearly as much as it used to. And, I think teams just come in the fans scream like lunatics for the first 5 minutes, and then whoever scores the first goal. And it's I don't think it makes that much difference, frankly, whether they get to play at home or not. I know they've won a lot of games at home this year, but I don't think it makes any difference.
I think they should give the team that gets the home court or home field in these leagues. I think they should give them 5 home games in the series instead of 4. I think they make it mean something. Make the regular season mean something. You get 1 extra home game doesn't do enough for me.
Yeah, I think that's it kind of that would make a sense if there was a big difference between the two teams, But I don't know if you want to give a team that type of an advantage, if it is an advantage, if indeed they're separated by 1 point at the end of the year or something. I don't know. I don't think that's a big deal. I will say that the first time the Blues and the North Stars played was in the Western Conference Finals, when the Western Conference was the expansion division, and the Blues did get 5 home games in a 7-game series because the owners of the Met Center had scheduled the circus.
That's right.
To be played, and they couldn't move the circus, so the Blues got an extra home game. So our first year out with the mighty North Stars in the Western Conference Finals, they could have went to the Cup the first year, and it ended up, I think they lost Game 7 in overtime, if I'm not mistaken, and in overtime, and they had played 5 of those 7 games in St. Louis. So
amazing.
Your system came through that time.
But only because of the circus, not because there was anything planned, right?
Yeah, we were the circus was probably paying them $10,000 to rent the arena back then. So
probably.
Anyway.
Yeah, Wild's good though. They're good. It's
they're good. Yeah, they're good. They beefed themselves up more at the trading deadline than St. Louis did. St. Louis added Nicoletti. That was a local kid, but he's more of a skater than a tough guy. But they, I don't know, they don't seem to have a lot of fear of the Wild. So it'll be a good series. There's no doubt about it.
About as fun as I can remember the Wild and Wolves being at the same time too. I mean, fun is subjective, but just two teams that play a relatively entertaining style. I don't remember them both being in this mode for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Now when the Wolves went in 2018, were the Wild not in the playoffs?
No, they made it that year. That was the other year aside from 2003, when they both made it that year. That was the year the Wolves lost in the first round. The Wild made their run that year.
Oh, they lost in the second round of was that the Blackhawks year or not?
No, I'm talking about 2003. 2018 was.
I was wondering.
Yeah, 2018 they both got smoked in 5 games. It was the Wolves lost to the Rockets and the Wild lost to, I believe, the Blues that year. So full circle there.
That was the Jake Allen series.
Yes, the Jake Allen series where they could not get a puck past Jake Allen.
Oh, who then the next year couldn't stop a volleyball. So
correct.
It's weird to say the least. But yeah, it's they certainly have the greater prospects, because if the Wolves would win this series, they'd have to play Phoenix. So
no, they have Golden State next, I think. They don't. I don't think they the NBA does not. The NBA does not reseed.
Oh, that's right. So okay, I kept thinking that 7 would have to play 1.
Nope, they get a winner of Golden State and who's Golden State playing? Denver. So probably Golden State.
Yeah, they could compete with that team. Although I will say that Golden State's in pretty good shape with Steph Curry as a backup guard.
Right. Saw that the other day. 22 minutes off the bench. That's not bad. Bring that guy off the bench.
You can't beat out Jordan Poole, who's turned into a phenom.
Right.
He got 30 and he's great and nobody ever heard of him. So, but that'd be a good team to play because they're not physical at all.
No. There you go. It's got
let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
No.
Winning 1 and getting overconfident. I can see that with that Wolves team too. But plus Patrick, why do they hate Patrick Beverly in Memphis? He wasn't even there, was he?
No, they hate him because he's
10 minutes.
He's knocked around John Morant for a while this year, so that's part of the problem.
Oh, okay, all right. Because did Memphis had him when they made that trade?
Yes.
Yeah. But he never played for them, right?
No, you know who they got? You know who they'd swapped him for, right?
Jarrett
Culver and Juancho Hernangomez.
Jarrett. I saw the Jarrett Memphis' last game of the year. They didn't play anybody, They didn't play. So Jarrett had 16, 18 minutes, no points.
Oh, boy.
So anybody who wants to tell me what a great job Gerson Rosas did, I say Jarrett Culver.
Yes, that was his major whiff right there. Major. And he traded up to get him.
Yes, he did. And so anyhow, it was fun. It was
fun.
But I did, and back to the play-in game. We didn't talk about that. That was one of the most fun, bad basketball games I've ever played in my life.
It was not well played. It was not well played. The Clippers were awful in that game.
52 fouls. Well, the Clippers I thought they strategically and everything else, they played really good, but then they went 7 minutes without making a shot, So then they turned around and lost at home to New Orleans.
Saw that. I couldn't believe that.
Because they were down early. They went and got ahead of them like 12, 13 points.
Yeah,
ended up
that was the point where I turned the game off, and I look up the next morning. I looked at the brackets because I was in an NBA playoff pool, and I was like, wait, what? The Pelicans did the Pelicans win that game? What happened here?
Yeah, they thought this might create some excitement in New Orleans, but they're 4 and done, and they got no chance. So.
Yeah, anyway. No, it should be fun Tuesday night, and then I'm sure we'll talk about the home games Thursday and Saturday. That Saturday game, 9:00 local time start.
Our Star Tribune print edition.
Yeah, that's not going to be great.
And you guys that keep saying 9:00, nope.
No, right? Yeah,
15 earliest.
Yes,
9:15 earliest.
Right. So. Get over around midnight. That'll be fun. But we will certainly talk about that next Monday, Patrick. I'm sure good stuff today, and we'll do this again next week. All right.
All right, Michael. See you.